Wouldn't it be great if we could all have an F2 Maxi, Clio or Megane? Well, unfortunately, we don't all have the £200,000 required to buy one, maybe more these days. So, what if you've only got £5,000? Well, I think, everybody, I have the solution for you.
Welcome everybody back to Lloyd Tries Cars. Sorry it's been a little while since the last video, but we are going to do some bits and pieces, a bit going on behind the scenes. We're going to make some changes, but I'm stood in front of a Clio 197 and I think this is the best car that you can buy under £5,000 for just an everyday one car fits all thing. Let me show you a little bit closer around it. It is 2 litre 16 valve F4R engine, 6-speed gearbox as opposed to the 5-speed you'll find in a Clio 182. I believe this is a more rounded car overall than a 182, but I think they're slightly different in their own different ways, which we'll come on to later. I mean, look at it. Look at the stance of it. They take a normal Clio, they've got a big wide track on it with the extra arches. You knew that you were dealing with proper engineers back in the day, back with Renault. They were really on a proper mission to find the best driver's cars you possibly could for not much money back in the day. We had the likes of the 230 F1 edition Megane, we had 197, then we went on to 200s, 250s, 265s, all the rest of it. Renaultsport for me are up there with some of the greatest makers of automotive vehicles for the common man of all time. Look at the thing. This one particularly is in perfect condition. This is 118,000 miles, it's had all the right bits done, it's had its gearbox rebuilt, it's had cam belts changed, it's got great service history, and it just looks so well. Michelin Pilot Sports 5 all round. So many nice little rally car features. Come and have a look at the back here. Look under this rear diffuser. I'm just going to show you something now. This is a bit of filth to me. Big diffuser that you got. This was a real step up from a 182. This was a real proper. You know, you got down-facing exhaust inside the diffuser here, 2 sides. It's really serious bit of kit in my opinion. I'm going to show you just inside. Just have a quick look. Excuse the remains of my meal deal, but you'll just see here. Normally they've got big wingback Recaros, which are worth their weight in gold in these Clios. But do not discount a standard seat in a Clio 197 or 200. They are so supportive, so comfortable, in some ways probably a bit nicer to live with. You also sit a little bit lower in them. This gear stick, I'll get onto the gear shift later. The ratios are incredible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're so close together, and it sits nice and high. It really does feel like an F2 Maxi kit car. The steering wheel sits right up close to your chest. It's fantastic. But yeah, it's a Renault. It's a cheap car. But for under £5,000, I don't think you can do better. Come out for a drive with me, and I'll show you why. Well, welcome everybody to the interior of the Clio 197. What are my first impressions? Well, I can't really offer you any first impressions because I've already had many first impressions of a Clio 197/200. But what I do know is that in recent years, I've really woken up to the 197 thing. The 200 is a car that I've had a couple of, and they're not £5,000 anymore. I mean, if you want a rough one with a load of miles, they're probably just under £5,000, but most of them are 7, 8 grand. A 197, I believe you get 90% of the experience of a 200. The 200 was slightly refined, slightly different mapping, slightly different gear ratios, but on the whole, very much the same car. This era of Renault Sport is when they were really on a roll. 2007, when they were just putting wide track, wide body versions of very special cars out. We had the R26R. We had some really special stuff coming out of the Renault Sport range. And this car immediately feels very racing, very kind of rally car-esque. I believe this is the closest that you can get to a kind of F2 Maxi experience rally car for the road. Certainly less than £5,000. 197s do seem to just be a little bit under the value of a Clio 200, which I think is great news for those in that market. Immediately I noticed nice high steering wheel. This is a non-cup car, which I believe is a better car on the road than a cup pack car. I'll come back to that later. But I've got a nice high steering wheel, exactly how I want it. My knees are perfectly tucked under the wheel. I'm 5'10", and I fit this car perfectly. Taller drivers also fit this car well. I have a friend of mine who's 6'7", and he drives an F1 edition R27 with perfect comfort. So it's a great car. There's no Recaros in this car. These cars normally come with big wingback Recaros, which those of you in the Clio world will know cost an arm and a leg and really inflates the value of these cars. But immediately you notice how revvy the thing is, and this close ratio gearbox. Again, we'll go into a bit more detail about this later, but immediately you feel how close the ratios are together. I mean, just to give you an example, I'm going to just knock 30, second gear, and just a light squeeze of power, second, third, fourth, fifth. It's just really not much. I'm just going to back off because there's a car going left, but let's try that again. Accelerate back into the national speed limit. Second, 5,000, revs to 7.5, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and you can just row it through the gears, and it's such a beautiful gearbox. Sometimes these cars can suffer with synchro issues between second and third, but I think that's because some of them may have had owners that are used to kind of really ramming gears home. You've got to be a little bit delicate with these things because the gate's quite narrow on them, but it's absolutely fantastic thing to drive. Immediately you notice really how serious it feels, but without being over the top, especially, as I say again, in this non-cut pack car, which is to give me slightly lighter suspension and a bit more kind of compliance, shall we say, on the road. But I'm just rowing through these gears, I'm just kind of just spurting through the power, and I'm just feeling that front end just go exactly where I want it. I've got this 12 o'clock dial on the steering wheel here. This one is lowered slightly on H&R springs and has got spacers, so it's a little bit bouncier than a normal cup car, but still rides really nicely. It's not crashy, it's just a little bit on the bouncier side, possibly to do with the springs, but you know me, I like standard cars. But we're just going to start getting into some slightly more technical roads now, which is great. It's exactly what we want. So let's feed it through this little left-hander here. Fourth gear is normally fifth, sixth in other cars, but you just want to rev it through, you know, coming down the box. And I'm barely doing any speed at all, but it just feels so up for it, fizzy, ready. It's absolutely fantastic. Right, let's just show it a few more interesting corners then. So, second gear, third, straight away, fourth. Just feed it through these two corners. I'm sorry if you can hear a bit of rattling in the background. I've got some axle stands in the back for another project. But into that left-hander, perfect, just rides beautifully, using all of that kind of rev range to get me through. And I'm not even anywhere near the rev limiter, and it does punch you through. It's not kind of gutless as a let's say a Type R. Sorry, Honda boys, but they are a bit gutless. I'm just going to feed it into this left-hander. It feels so small, and I've got this wheel that's just exactly where I want it. Heel and towing's perfect. Down into second, I'm just going to just throw it in there, throw it through the right-hander, back on the power. Let's go all the way to the rev limiter. Into that third, that's the tricky gear change you've got to be mindful of. Into this sequence of corners now. Brakes are absolutely fantastic. We're going to chuck it in, run Renaultsport style, grab the top of the steering wheel, let the diff, well, it doesn't have a diff, but let that power, let that chassis do the work, and we're down into second gear, and we're just caught another car now. So but just to give you a small feel, it's just such an engaging car at very low speeds. That's all I can say. It's just so engaging. You've got so much to do. The car tells you exactly what you want it to do. It doesn't have a diff, as I've just mentioned. It does not have a diff, but it doesn't need a diff. It hasn't quite got the power. The chassis is good enough to cope. It hasn't got lots of power to really spin that inside wheel up. So traction's fantastic. This car's on Michelin Pilot Sport 5s, which are great. Obviously brilliant tyre, as we know. But first impressions are great. The seats, the standard seats, do not be put off a Clio 197 that doesn't have the Recaros. These standard seats are fantastic. They fit my body shape perfectly. I'm not slim, I'm not fat, but it fits me perfectly well. It really is a fantastic seat, this car. This car's got these standard seats, absolutely bob on. Comfortable for the larger chap as well, if you are such a way. But yeah, pedals are perfectly spaced for heel and towing. You've just got to be a bit delicate with the gearbox in these things, but when you get it right and you start to get a feel for that narrow gate, it's one of the best gearboxes I think ever. I really do think that. It's just a fantastic gear change, and those gear ratios, oh, to die for. That sort of almost, it's almost, you can't really feel a difference in the ratios. They're so short, but it's just a perfect little kind of front wheel drive rally car, F2000 experience. I am Jean Renaultsport in a Megane kit car. Fantastic. It's just what you want. This is even just pressing on. That's 65 miles an hour. And I feel like I'm having all the fun in the world. There's so many cars out there that just couldn't give you this kind of thrill at these speeds. It's perfect. Just listen to this. If you can hear it, I'll shut up for a second, but see if you can hear these ratios as I just stroll through these corners. Ready? sorry for the rattling around in the back. That third to fourth. Oh, it's just a little rally car. It's so good. It's so good. Let's do that again. Right, let's show you a little bit more about what that looks like from the road, just so you can get an idea of how busy I am in the cabin here. So second gear would normally be third gear for a lot of cars, but we're in, well, sorry, the other way around. This would normally be sort of first gear and we're in second, and then second gear would be third gear in this car, if that makes sense. But anyway, if it doesn't, that's your problem. So third gear, 5,000 RPM, fourth gear, barely any change in ratio. You can just hear it. And I'm just thinking my way through the corners. I've got this 12 o'clock dial that's giving me a great reference point for where the steering's at. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm just thinking my way through the bends, and I just feel so connected and close to the action. Taking lovely apexes with this car. You can see why so many of these cars get tracked. It is just absolutely beautiful. It's glorious. Rides fantastically well, and this is what I mean about when I was saying earlier about a cup. A cup, you'd be bouncing down the road like this. This bump here, that would almost send you on two wheels in a cup. This is a non-cup car. You don't need any more than this on the road. Unless you're going to do some serious track work or some serious driving, you don't mind getting thrown around a little bit and bouncing down the road, then get a cup. But I don't think you really miss anything in this car. I think it's just an absolute piece of Renaultsport greatness. So we're just going to trickle through this 30. Again, talking a bit more, this steering wheel, you can see just how high up the steering wheel is. I like a steering wheel close to my chest, and I like to steer through my elbows. As all good people will tell you, that is a good way to hold a steering wheel, certainly in my opinion. My feet are stretched out nicely. I've got perfect space there with the pedals. It's fantastic for heel and towing. So coming out of the 30 now, I'm just going to drop it down into second. Beautiful heel and toe pedals, they really are. Right. It's a variable valve timing engine, 7,500 RPM into third, into fourth. Just going to dab a brake, a little bit of heel and toe, into the apex, absolutely fantastic. Take second because it wants to. Back on the power, into third again, hard on the brakes, down into second. I'm going to grab the top of that wheel like Jean-Ryan Yachting. I'm going to chuck it in through that corner there, fantastic. I'm going to go second gear, I'm going to go straight back down. It sounds like it's really revving its nuts off, and it feels like I'm doing lots of mile an hour, but you look down at the speedo and you're really not going that fast. Into third, into fourth. I've got so much to do, I'm so busy with this gearbox, it's perfect. Down into third, down into second. Just take that beautiful little apex. Front tyres are absolutely phenomenal on this car. It really is absolutely fantastic, and we've caught a little bit of traffic, so we'll run past that and then we'll spin around. I think we'll do that again. I think we shall dispatch the farm truck. Show you a little bit of overtaking ability because he is doing literally 30 and a 60. So we'll just dip past the old farmer. I don't think he'll mind. Thank you, sir. Into third, into fourth. Now this is a great corner. I love this corner. A nice little test of high speed. So we're going to go third gear, chuck it in. I can see the other side of the road. This just feels like an absolute tarmac rally car. Down into third, into the left-hander, into the right-hander. It's that wide track that makes the car so stable. Into fourth. You can see how hard I'm having to work just to get the thing down the road in a nice quick manner, but it's so rewarding. I can't tell you, this is why they compare these things to GT3 RS's, and they really do. The front wheel drive GT3 RS, no doubt about it, absolutely no doubt about it. But that gives you a little glimpse of just how hard I have to work in a Clio. But it's so rewarding. You could be going down there in something like, I don't know, an S3 or a Leon Cooper, or what else is there? Turbo, something turbo. Let's go with Megane, for example. You wouldn't have to work nearly as hard because you'd be riding on a wave of torque, whereas this thing, just keeping it always on the cams. I mean, it's not low on torque. I mean, if you're used to a turbo car, you probably are going to want for a bit more low down performance, but that's not why you're buying a Clio, is it? So, oh, it's so rewarding. I hope that did it justice. It is so rewarding, this car. And again, even if you just want to trickle down the road, just to re-emphasise my point from earlier, this is such a fun car as well to drive at half speed. If you're not even that on it, you can just kind of just lazily feed it through the bends into sixth. It just feels special. A couple of cheeky little heel and toes into fourth, just sends you up the road a little bit. I mean, I'm bouncing down the road a little bit, but nothing Unfortunately, this 308 is turning off, so thank you very much. Again, third gear, and again, this is just a bit of normal driving. This is going to be 50% or so. Tightens up here on the left, got to watch for people cutting the corner. Second gear, little prod. Find the apex into third again, tricky gear change into fourth, lovely gear change. Brakes don't get tired really with any major road work. You might want to rate them if you're doing major track stuff. But if you just want to do a little bit of B-road bashing, you'll be absolutely fine. Into second, make a wide berth round here because you can. Flat to the boards, into third. This tightens up a little bit, but not too much that we need second. Back on the brakes. But yeah, you can just see how beautifully it brakes and steers into those corners. Down into second. I'm just going to take my foot off a little bit because I saw some horses not so long ago, so I don't want to have any nasty surprises. But yeah, you can just see the kind of steering ratio is just lovely. It doesn't fire you out of the bends, but it doesn't feel slow. It's just a little joy, this car. It really is an absolute joy. I've had a couple of them and I just feel incomplete without one. I really do feel incomplete without one. Absolutely love these things, really, really do. So I think we're clear of the horses at this point, which is nice. So you just get a little feel. Fuck me, dude. You're on your own side of the road. Getting into this, I'm going to go fourth this time. I'm just going to just chuck it in there. There we go, lovely. Nice bit of inertia just taking us through that bend there. Down to third for this one. Chuck it through. Sorry, that's that axle stand. I've tried to wedge it underneath the back seat, so sorry if you can hear that. There we go. It's just fantastic. Just fantastic. An absolute racing car, this thing. It really is. But you don't have to do silly speeds to get the rewards. You really, really don't. It's just an absolute piece of heaven. Let's conclude then on the Clio 200 and 197 argument. The 200s, if you've got more than £5 to spend, I think from experience, the 200 is just a slightly more polished car than a 197, but that's generally the way with facelifts, isn't it, with cars and stuff. Now, 197, if you're in the sub £5 market and you want a really fun car day to day, I struggle to recommend anything more than a Clio 197, and I don't care if you're into Fords, if you're into Hondas, whatever, you will get joy from a Clio 197. Build quality, they've got their issues, don't get me wrong, you know, they need the cam belts and dephasers changing. That can be a costly job because special tooling, expensive dephasers, etc, etc. You've got to make sure you got one with cam belts, but it's not that bad. I mean, just buy it right if you can. The interiors can peel apart a little bit, but again, so can most cars when they get to a certain age. What else goes wrong with them? You can have knuckles and swivels, and the suspension sometimes can fail. I've never experienced that, maybe I've been lucky. What else? Manifolds can blow, but again, that could be down to a little bit of maybe abuse, which they're designed to kind of deal with. But again, nothing I wouldn't expect, a bit of exhaust trouble. But generally speaking, they're pretty good. Snap springs, dampers need replacing, but nothing that you wouldn't expect from any regular car. They don't corrode because they're mostly plastic. And to be honest, this one's done 118,000 miles. It's had its gearbox rebuilt. Oh yeah, of course, the third to fourth synchro thing. Again, mostly because of people bashing the gearboxes a little bit. If you've had one that's had nice ownership, somebody's looked after it, you'll be absolutely fine. Some crunch, some don't. I wouldn't not buy a car just because it's not had its gearbox refurbished, if that makes sense. As long as it feels good, it'll probably be fine. Just make sure you keep on top of the servicing of these cars. They like being ran on anything above 97 RON fuel. That's one thing I've always noticed in my experience of these cars. I've had 4 of them, and yeah, they like a bit of e-power. They do feel appreciably more sharp and a bit more responsive with the old high octane in it. So they like a bit of that. It's like any car, just got to look after it. There's good ones and bad ones. This is a good one. This is 118,000 miles. It drives sweet as a nut. An absolute credit to the owner. And yeah, the gearbox has been refurbished. The cam belt's been changed. It's just a nice car. The F4R engines are pretty bulletproof as long as they've had the right servicing. It's just a great car for the money, and if you just want to poodle along, it just becomes a Renault Clio again. They do get a bit grumpy from cold. You'll hear about this kangarooing thing that they do, but that's just a bit of fuel and mapping. It's just something that when you change from first to second, they can a little bit. But if you're into Clios, you'll know that. Just let it warm up. The car really does come to you when it's warm. So from cold, Clios, anybody will tell you, 197s, 200s, if you're used to them, they're horrible when they're cold. They're so grumpy. They don't rev. They're just a bit grumpy. Let them warm up on your drive for a minute if you can. And I like that. That's a little bit motorsport, that is. A little bit motorsport. Let the thing warm up. Let it have its moment. But this is the closest thing that you'll get to a front-wheel drive rally car for under £5 grand. It really, really is. I don't think there's any car that will give you the same experience. The wide stance, the close ratio 6-speed box, the way the car it's so perfectly damped as well when it's in non-cup. It's a perfect car for under £5 grand in my opinion. If you've got a difference of opinion, let me know in the comments. But I really just think a 197 is such a slept-on car. I mean, look at the prices of EP3s. For a good one, you're talking 6-7 grand now. Clio 200s, 6-7 grand. Fiesta STs, Focus STs, more than that, all horrible and category written off. So I just think for me, Clio 197, if you're a bit like me and you like a bit of motorsport, and you like a race car, this is the car for you. I really do think it is. And if you're thinking about it, do it. You won't regret it. You won't regret it. A back box is nice on these, but I like a standard car. They sound raspy enough from standard. They can be a little bit quiet, but some people like to put induction kits on them. They like to put exhausts on them. They do sound really, really good with a bit of especially a 200 with an Akrapovic on it or a Miltech. That's a nice sounding car. But yeah, that's kind of my experience. That's what I like. I'm a Renault fanboy. I'm a Clio fanboy. I love my French stuff. So yeah, perfect car 197 in my opinion for under £5 grand. If anybody's got any difference of opinion, let me know in the comments. Hope you're enjoying the videos. There is going to be a bit more content coming soon. We are going to change the channel slightly, as I've been mentioning. It's all happening kind of in the background. But yeah, keep watching, keep subscribing. Thank you ever so much for sticking with me and being patient with the videos. Really appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers. Oh, I can finally put the window down now. Oh, make sure you get one that's got the air gas in the whatever. I'm hot. My brain's not working. Oh, that's lovely.